Firstly, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation. I watched Akuni or Axon. Is that the right way to say it in
Akhone,
English?
Akhone. Yeah, you were right. Yeah.
And it was a brilliant film, a gem of a film, in fact. And I'm glad that, people finally got to watch it, at least during the lockdown, because, they paid more attention to it. Now, when you first accepted this project, what did you think about it?
I mean, when the script came to me, honestly, Dilip Shankar, who was the casting director of the film, he called me and he said, "There's a breakout script out of India, and I think it's very interesting. I think you will like it. Would you want to read it?" So I was like, "Yeah, of course." And when I read it, I mean, of course, I knew of Nick through common friends,
Yeah.
but I hadn't really seen any of his work. But when I read the script, it really spoke back to me. I loved the world he created. I loved the authenticity with which he was trying to tell the story. And also, I mean, he is the writer director of the film, but also the fact that he's from that part of the world. His experiences were peppered through the screenplay, and it was his real life reality and experience that has found its way into the script. And that was quite, I mean, I just loved the purity and honesty and the balanced politics with which he wrote the script. I think that was very important. And I am always very, very cautious about the politics in all the work I do. It just is something that I, like keep in very, very high regard. And I really like the politics of this film. And also Upasana, which is my character, she's just so funny on paper. I mean, she's just funny, adorable. Just she had this old school simplicity. She's completely neurotic at times, but also has an immensely big heart, and just lovely and so different from me or anybody I've played ever. It just like I just love the fact that he was trying to make a comedy or a satire, using with a backdrop which is a very, very serious issue of racism. And there is so much racism, I mean, all across the world, but also in our country. And so, yeah, many things. I mean, I have some of my closest friends in life are from the Northeast. All very different from one another, not similar at all. So I knew people from there. I knew some of the culture, the food, certain things. But this film also opened a barrage of like new things for me. So that was also quite an educative experience. But yeah, so there was no reason for me to not do the film. I auditioned for it. I sent a self test, and they immediately said you're on board. So yeah.
Okay. Now that the audience has loved it, they love all the characters, they love the narratives, they love the storytelling. Because, like you said, it's a serious issue. It's about racism, discrimination, but it was told in a very humorous way, and I think, which is why it connected with a lot of people. Had it been a
Right.
serious kind of film, I'm really not sure how the audience would have
Yeah.
accepted it. You
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
did, season two. Four more shots, also came out just 1 or 2 months back, and you've been
One
seeing a
month.
lot in the OTT space. Do you think the OTT platforms has opened up a whole new world for actors like you? Because you are very choosy about the kind of work that you do, isn't it? It's not like you want to do everything that's commercial and just playing. You want to do something which actually touches the audience in a way. That's how I felt like all your characters are also very different in each of the films or shows that I've seen you in. So have OTT platforms opened up a whole new world for you?
Yes and no. Of course, it's opened up a whole new world for the whole industry, and not only actors but also writers, directors, technicians, the whole. I mean, for everyone, literally. But I think, I mean, when it comes to I mean, specifically my journey or my choice of work, it's always been things that are um, that engage me, and for lack of a better word, and that seems like challenging, that seems to be a story that I want to tell and I want to be part of. And I've always done that, right from Margarita with a Straw to Jagga Jasoos to, I mean, things, Fan, Barba Dekho, like, it's always, so I've done all kinds of films. I've also done a Hungry. I also lose track sometimes, I forget. But so I do stuff that truly excites me, and instinctively, I never see where it's coming. It's irrespective of where it's coming. If it's a script that's interesting, and if it's a part that I would want to do, or if it's a director who I would like to work with. Like I did Poshampa, which came out on Z5, but I didn't do it because it was coming on OTT or irrespective of where it was coming. I just did it because it was a really interesting character to play. So, things like that. But, and Akhune, for that matter, was not supposed to be on OTT initially because it was always made as a film that would have a theatrical release. Unfortunately, COVID changed everything, So, and right now, we don't even know when will the theaters open and when will we be able to go back to our, I mean, going to a theater and watching, enjoying a film on a big screen. So definitely, but there are of course FOMO shots, Inside Edge are stuff that I know could have only been made because it's a show, it's an original for an OTT. But of course, answering your question, I don't think it's definitely empowered a lot of people. It's definitely put a lot of actors on the map. It's sort of, you didn't need to be a star anymore to be able to be on hoardings, and which is basically to say that be high, like be the protagonists of big shows. You just had to be a good actor or be fit to play the part. So yeah, those things have totally changed, and I always take Pankaj Tripathi's example that he was always a fantastic actor in everything he did. But it had to, and he's been consistently working, and we knew about him, but it had to, he had to wait for Mirzapur to happen for him to be on every hoarding, in town, and everyone to sort of stop and take notice of his immense talent. So that also is required sometimes. And now I think it doesn't matter anymore. Everyone's gunning for the eyeballs, and the lockdown has proven that people are very hungry for content, good, bad. Every content has enough and more people to watch. Okay, so it's no longer whether so many people are watching it, what people are saying, and that's different, but everyone's watching everything, that's for sure.
Right. Speaking about FOMO shots, a very women-centric show, helmed by women, directors. People felt it was edgy, it was glamorous. But do you think the show also changed the way women were perceived? Because, changed the narrative of how women were looked at. It was, people kept calling it the Desi version of Sex and the City. But it was much more than that for us in India, wasn't it?
All your questions are so loaded, I like it. No, so, if whenever people say and sort of give the reference of Sex and the City, I think it's only a compliment, and we all feel that the Sex and the City as a show is very, very well written.
Yeah.
And it's very well made, and it's not just because you saw these independent women, it was also because of that. But having said that, it was also these characters and how relatable they were, and how unafraid they were, and they were just so free and full of abundance, and that was what people related to, and it was consistently good writing, season after season. FOMO shots has a long way to go to become, if I have to be honest. But having said that, it's definitely, the reason I said yes to the show was because I thought and I believed that it was trying to push the envelope for narratives around women, and around urban women, you know, because you have never seen women behaving um, as we are, you know, as people like you and me who have had a certain kind of an education, upbringing, career, you know, like professional women. Like I was talking to one of my very close cousins, who's a scientist in America, and I mean, we had a long discussion about Fomo Shots, things she liked, things she didn't like, and you know, her thing was like there are professional women running the world, like literally small businesses, huge corporations, like you name a profession, it's women running it. But in your mainstream cinema, in across the globe, how many women do you see? Professional women, their lives, you know, when it comes to women, it's always for some reason it's around their personal lives. You know what I'm saying? Like it's about whether they are getting like around their romantic liaisons or like different kind of things. You know, it's never, you really don't see a woman who's an astronaut and that's all, you know. I mean, you only have a gravity, and there are only far and few where you have these women who are being represented. And I think there's a huge dearth in our country also, and especially in our country. So I think Fomo Shots was trying to bridge that gap, you know, create a narrative around women with agency and control over their lives, complete control, and who were flawed like we all are, who chose to make mistakes on their own terms, and who stood by their mistakes, you know. And again, female bonding, sisterhood, female friendship is something that your women are constantly pitted against each other, saying, oh, women can't be friends, and you know, things like that, which is bullshit, right? I mean, it's just a myth created by patriarchy, and it's still going on. I mean, we still get asked by journalists saying, oh, but you know, do women get along? I was like, why the hell not? You know, I mean, come on, don't you have friends who are women? So you know, those kind of things. And there's, I mean, I have to add, because you know, you're asking these kind of questions, that there were some people who were like, oh, what is this pseudo feminism, and you know, who are these, do Hindu women behave like this? You know, they go on religion and like bizarre things. Or would you marry? And people who write like, you know, and people are fighting on social media with one another saying, oh, what is wrong with you? How can you like this show? Will you marry a girl like this? And things like that. And that's when you realize that the the necessity of actually creating a show like Fomo Shots is even more than we actually thought it would be. You know, it was, because it really disturbs a lot of people.
So I think it disturbs a lot of people, frankly, because they're not willing to accept the reality. And the reality is that there are women. I mean, women are empowered. They're independent. You know, they live lives their own way. But a lot of, perhaps I should say, men, you know, are not willing to accept it. You know, they just prefer to ignore that section of the population and say, oh, women don't, like this actually don't exist. It's just a figment of, you know, an imagination of somebody.
Yes. Yeah, and there are women also. I mean, you know, it's very wrong to say that men are the only perpetrators of patriarchy. Women are the biggest perpetrators of
Yeah.
patriarchy.
The way they bring up.
They spend their lives trying to believe and making you know, other people believe that this is the way to be, you know, and this is the only way to be. There is no harm in coexisting, you know. You could, but to have the freedom to choose is much, you know, it's much harder than it seems on at a surface level.
Right. You know, right now there's a lot of talk of privilege. But do you think, you know, what do you think about this whole issue of privilege? Is it, I'm asking you as a person, as an actor, as a person, you know, as an actor in the Hindi film industry, how much does privilege really, you know, weigh in on who you are as an individual, what career choices you make, or what offers come to you?
Yeah, lives are defined by privilege. Everything is privilege. If you have something over somebody else, it's privilege. And the fact that I'm sitting in an AC room talking with you on a Zoom call in English, having this conversation is a huge privilege. And we are part of a very small bubble, you know, and very, very small section of people who have the privilege to drink out of this glass, which is designed by somebody sitting in a privileged setup. Um, and I'm wearing Bose earphones. All of this is privilege, and hugely so. So, I mean, where do you even start from the fact that, you're born in a certain family, you're born in a certain, right now, it seems like, the fact that I'm a upper class Hindu, straight woman is also a bloody privilege. Imagine if I were a Dalit, or if I were a Muslim, or if I were a lesbian, or if I were, if I didn't look the way I did, or if I didn't have the education my parents gave me, uh, I wouldn't have been there, So your privilege is also not just where you have come in your life, but what your ancestors and your parents and your families have given you. I mean, my mother has worked very, very hard to give me what she did, so that I could get the education that she would have dreamt of, So though that's also privilege, and I am in this privileged position of privilege because my mother or our mothers or our parents or people we know have sacrificed a lot and their set of privileges for us. So it's a very, very long discussion. Everything that I mean, I am hugely privileged and I know it, right? But again, the conversation can't just end there. The point is that what do you do with that privilege? If I have the privilege and I am aware of it, how do I use it, to better not only better my life, but also make use of this and make a difference in the society that I live in. So if I have the privilege of understanding a certain kind of say scripts or certain kind of narratives, a certain kind of politics, which actually my education gives me, then because I happen to go to a college like Lady Shriram College, I happen to go to a place like FTII, which is a huge privilege, which a lot of people don't get, right? So I have to do justice to that. So I can't just be sitting in my little cocoon and saying, oh, you know what, but I have taken care of my life and my job is done. It's not. So I have a responsibility to give it back in whatever way I can, So the fact that I choose to do an Article 15 in Akhone is also part of making use of that privilege. It might seem like, oh, what are you talking about? But every step that we take in our lives is how we make use of that privilege, and again, when we are talking, when like literally thousands of people are dying trying to reach home and walking, and there's literally nobody accountable for their lives, and like nobody really cares about the poor, and of course, I mean, let's not even get to the divisive culture right now and the climate. So of course, the fact that we are feeling safe in a way. Again, COVID has been a great equalizer, but and also huge, like it's also made this gaping, hole, that reality that, in the reality that we live in, because, I mean, we have the privilege of social distancing. Most people in our country don't, people are, I mean, we know the reality. So everything is about privilege, I mean, talking about nepotism is, yeah, okay, but it's a reductive conversation, I feel.
Right. Speaking about FTII, you were there for 3 years, and you've always said that it was a great experience. What were some of the key things you learned at FTII which are so crucial to the work that you do today, other than the acting and so on and so forth?
Okay, there's so many.
A couple of things that
yeah, so I'll tell you the biggest thing for me, which was that, when I even imagined or dreamt of coming to Bombay, and even like a distant dream of thinking aloud, like not even speaking it, like thinking in my head, like, oh, maybe I can become an actor in films, like as a distant imagination, the only legitimate way for me was to educate myself, because again, I'm somebody who's been my life, so for me to just show up in Bombay did not seem like a very smart option. I was like, I just have to study and see if I'm and figure out and give this time and figure out whether I'm good for it or not, whether I'm cut out for it or not. Till then, I'm just happy to learn and have a good time in film school because I had the cushion or the privilege of, again, savings, because I'd already worked to have this. I mean, things just fell into place. Um, and what FTI really did was tell me that, one, I'm decent at what I do. It gave me the confidence which comes from knowing your craft, and not only the craft of an actor but filmmaking as a whole. It gives you the confidence and know-how, and knowledge always helps you. When you walk into a room knowing a little more than the rest of the people, it gives you an innate confidence. It gives you a little bit strength in your spine. It also gives you a lot of reality checks. It also makes you aware of what is what, and you might not be able to see it from a distance and have a very clear perspective, but it's there. And in hindsight, when I look at it, and my experience when I was starting out, I had the confidence. I would walk into a room with confidence. I didn't even have to say I was from FTI. After my auditions, people would ask me like, "Where are you from?" And then I would say FTI, and they were like, "Oh, okay," and people would people started looking at me differently. And it's again like knowing the work, again, carrying yourself with dignity, and that's very important when you're starting out, especially in the profession, especially for girls. I can't I I keep saying this, that you have to carry yourself with dignity and honor, because the way you carry yourself actually makes a difference in how people perceive you. You can't walk into a room uh, looking needy, or looking like you're willing to do anything that takes. You're willing to work hard, but that's about it. So those kind of things. And again, the biggest thing being, so many people in Bombay. You have a cushion of seniors, your immediate seniors, your like seniors, like, say for example, Nasiruddin Shah, who I could just pick up a phone. There's so many people who have interacted with you, who've taught you, who are your seniors, who have gotten drunk with you under the wisdom tree, and who are willing to take you in, open their homes, give you suggestions, give you free booze and food and a couch to park yourself on. So there is the support system is very strong, and that's, I think, again, very, very reassuring for somebody who's starting out.
Okay. And my last question to you, what are you looking forward to now? You're, of course, season 3 of Four More Shots, please, is on, right? What else is happening with you on the work front?
Wow. I don't know where. So I have a few films on post-production.
Okay.
And I know Inside Edge season 3 will release again this year sometime. I don't know what's the thing with other releases, because I don't think anyone really knows as of now. Again, Akhone was also like, we got to know last month that Akhone is releasing. So, everything is like on the go right now, and people are just improvising. Having said that, I don't think I'm ready to shoot yet. Okay. So right now, whatever's coming, apart from the stuff that I already had planned, I'm in the process of like signing something, but a lot of stuff I'm just saying no to right now, because I just don't know. I don't know. I'm just feeling this, like, either it's lethargy or it's just like fear. But I don't think I'm ready to go out and shoot yet. Okay. For some time. Okay. So I don't want to shoot till about September at least, So, so yeah, I'm looking forward to actually going to Calcutta and seeing my mother. Okay. Because, while. And yeah, so small things, one thing at a time right now.
So other than the promotions, how have you been keeping busy at home?
Man, there's so much. There was so much stuff happening around the promotions, but then, I do everything alone. So obviously cooking and cleaning, and as I said, jharu, pocha, bartan, Like this, like so much to do, vacuum, clothes and everything. And then when the lockdown started, actually, I started like singing more regularly. I was doing riyaz. I started painting. Of course, I'm watching tons of stuff. We have a film group where we have these like amazing Zoom meetings on discussing films and stuff like twice or thrice a week. So yeah, tons of stuff. Yeah, like, and so many scripts to read. I literally like there's a huge like I think yeah, and
Are you
everything I'm just
practicing dance
postponing.
still? You're a dancer, right? You're a trained Bharatanatyam dancer.
Yeah, so when lockdown started, I actually started doing like a little bit, like moving and stuff, like and it was lovely, but just not like it's nothing's been like continuous. These promotions are never ending. I'm not complaining, but yeah, just
I can
doing that.
understand. Okay.
Yeah,
Shayoni, so thanks. I hope I got your name right.
yeah.
Thank you so much for chatting with me and wishing you the very best. And I hope to see some more wonderful work from you. I just loved Akoni. It was such a gem of a film. So,
Thank you so much.
thank you so much. And
Thank you. This was such a nice conversation. Thank you for asking such
thank you.
lovely questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take
Take
care,
care.
Lata.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye. Bye.